Hey, before we get started, I want to tell you about something that's changing the game for women in dental leadership. It's called the Empowered Leadership Experience for Women in Dental. It's a 6-month transformational journey for women who are done with burnout, overfunctioning, and trying to lead like someone they're not. This isn't just another leadership training, it's a coming home to your voice, your power, and your joy. If you've ever felt alone at the top or stuck somewhere in the middle, this one's for you. Enrollment is now open. Head to leadhershipexperience.com to enroll. Because real leadership isn't about performing, it's about remembering who you are. Now, let's get into today's episode. Jonathan Bonanno, where does one even start? Jonathan is an exceptional human in the dental space. He is a psychologist known as Chief Psycho, and he is an advocate for those in psychological safety, organizational leadership, and really getting to the root of what it means to be a strong leader with a great culture in your office. He is a shining example of the work that he preaches, which is always one of my favorite aspects of people in this space, are those who actually walk the talk. We talk about some pretty heavy stuff when it comes to culture and psychological safety in dental offices. We also talk about the chronic addiction and need to feel needed and what that actually looks like, and especially in today's day and age in dentistry where popularity seems to be a trending topic among the dental space, and particularly on LinkedIn and Instagram. I can't wait for you to listen to this episode. Please comment, like, share with everyone that you know, because Jonathan is somebody that you really want to know and you really want to follow. And I am so grateful that our paths crossed over the last couple years, because this guy knows his stuff and he speaks the truth. Can't wait for you to listen. Jonathan!
What's up?
Chief Psycho, what's up? How are you? I'm so excited to have you on. This is going to be fun. This is going to be great. And I want to kick it off because as we were chatting before we started, I think it's so funny because when I first came across you, I noticed your LinkedIn handle was Chief Psycho. And I 1000% believed that you were identifying yourself as a psychopath. So this is great. And I was always a little perplexed by it because I was like, wow, he's so well known in the dental industry. He's got tons of respect. People adore him. And he also is a chief psychopath. So how does this make sense to me? And then I had the chance to know you and get to know you and learn that psycho actually was relating to psychology.
Yep.
So I just wanted, can you share with everybody who might be a little perplexed, who doesn't know you? They should know you, and I want them to know you, but they might be a little confused by the chief psycho part. So do you want to talk a little bit about where that came from and what it means to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one, I'm thankful for being here. Thank you, Brandy, for asking me to join. I'm so excited to jump into these fun conversations. I love you as a person, and meeting you through Sober Life Rocks has been a really, really great opportunity. So thank you. But to jump into the chief psycho construct, if you will. So before I came into dentistry, I worked in corporate consulting. I came from medical, pharmaceutical, surgical, bio-life sciences space. So a lot of that was my chief, meaning the C-suite conversation that I was in. And then of course I am a psychologist, so going down the road of understanding psychoanalytics, the nature of people, the makeups, human behavior, all the things. So that is really where I created the merriment of chief and psycho to bridge the corporate background that I had and the psychology emphasis that I'm forwarding today.
I love it. I love it. Do you ever get people that think how I think at first and don't understand that?
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
every time that I say chief psycho, I always get like a like a head tilt, and I'm like, that's exactly what I'm hoping for though, because that opens the
Yeah.
conversation of, oh, this is actually the intention behind it. It's not just this like fun, quirky, bold brand that I'm creating. It's me. It's a lot of who I am and a lot of what I speak to and talk about inside my profession, both in and outside of the workplace. But it's always that funny remark because, like we were talking about before, I had bleach blonde hair, spiky, long. That was what I wore, and that was my way of navigating through some of these seas of people. Is like, oh, there's Chief Psycho, the blonde, tall kid with all the tattoos.
Totally. It worked. It totally worked. Yeah. It was branding on point for sure. I love it. And so that is something that I also find so alluring about you, especially in the dental space, is really your emphasis on psychology. And no one, I mean, from what I can tell, nobody really focuses on this particularly. And having the background that you have and being in dental, I think is just so unique and so cool. Tell me a little bit more about your passion behind this and the areas that you particularly focus on. I think it's so unique.
Yeah, absolutely. So coming from my corporate background, I'm educated, I would like to say. I went to business school. I went through all the different roads and maps, if you will, to get to the level of education that I have today. And a part of that process was recognizing that people are going to be what pushes the needle forward. And prior to coming into dentistry, as I mentioned, I was in the corporate consulting space. So lots of numbers, lots of people, lots of timelines. I was really big in the project and implementation space. So anytime that like the FDA was releasing a product, there's a lot of roles and responsibilities that come into play in those regards. And at an early age, I recognized that I couldn't just be dictating timelines or dictating from timelines. I needed to be leading from the intrinsic motivators. And that's what the psychological aspect really attracted me to the conversation, because when I was interested in it first, I was pursuing performance psychology. I wanted to understand how people are performing and the reasons why they're not. But in order to really understand that, you had to go a layer deeper, which was the industrial organizational side. So I don't go into the clinical aspect, but I am certified and trained in psychodynamic psychotherapy. But I go deeper into the actual workplace itself. We spend so many hours and time and dedication to what we do in our profession that at times it takes away a lot from what we do personally. So instead of creating this whole work-life balance conversation, it's really just understanding whether or not balance is present or not. So finding ways to really dig into that is where I found really, I would say, resonance with the psychological conversations that I'm in. I'm a huge advocate for psychological safety. That is one of the primary topics that I will speak on and educate from, because it is the foundation for anything and everything to be built off of. I'm a huge advocate, of course, for leadership, especially within the current stage and game that we're operating in. The next generation is entering our workforce. Gen Z is in professions and leadership roles today. And I was reading an article yesterday about instead of quiet quitting, it's transitioning out of job hugging. So I like to read and research and stay in the space of, how the workplace is evolving and changing. And I also start evaluating people as talent. So what are we doing in the space of talent? Are we capitalizing it? Are we ensuring that it's present? Are we operating authentically inside of our talent? Or what are we hiding? What are we closing up and closing our opportunities off to as well? So talent, leadership, safety, culture, alignment, all those fun areas. I really, really enjoy those discussions because there's so many things to learn from. And I think that's the beauty of being in the space of psychology and having that education and experience that I do, is I get to always learn something new from someone. And it's always something that I can either take on and apply myself, or it's something that I can share inside of an experience, share and say, hey, this is what Brandy recommended, and this is what worked for her. It may not work for you, but this is something that you could attempt. And going in the arena of potential and opportunity, and little by little, like, it doesn't need to be this huge verbose thing that people are striving for at times. It's those mini milestones that I myself had to remind myself to slow down, to appreciate and acknowledge, which I get to do now.
Gosh, this is like such an amazing topic because, as you know, I've been coaching for a long time, and you meet so many different people, teams, obviously, and leaders. And I'm sure you run into this all the time. But a lot of times people are elevated into leadership roles within the team that maybe aren't set up for success as the leaders. They may be very good at their job or excel at, the task or what they were hired to do. And typically what will happen is, leaders will go, oh, that person's really great. Let's elevate them into leadership. They don't succeed in leadership. According to their leaders, they seem to be struggling. And then there's a lot of frustration. And then the team member feels really disenchanted because, in their other role, they were a superstar.
Yeah.
Right? And now they're struggling. They're not being very successful as a leader. How, with your approach with the psychological safety and organization and development, and even, because what I hear you saying is setting people up in a way that they can succeed, and I'm sure more often than not that goes overlooked. I see it all the time. I can't imagine at the level you see it at too.
Yeah.
What would be your suggestion to, for for a leader that elevated somebody else and now they're seeing them struggle in the leadership position? What would you suggest on how to avoid that heartbreak once they get to that leadership spot and not being successful in it?
Yeah, it's always a funny conversation when this topic comes up because I always find that there are so many layers that can come from either the leader that's been promoted or the leader that promoted the leader that wasn't ready. And
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes that's really where the breakdown is. And as you mentioned, individuals become really, really great and I would say productive or proficient inside of single function roles. But the moment that they're promoted into the responsibility of others' functions and roles, that is where it gets blurry and that's where it is challenging. If we look at it from a practice perspective, the dentist is primarily the owner oftentimes, depending on the state that you're living in or the profession that you hold. The dentist is the leader. So maybe the treatment coordinator has been there for the last 10 years and they've been there because they're the only ones that keep showing up or they like their work or they like the job or it's close to home or whatever other list of reasons are. They become the office manager. And I've seen it so many times to where you see somebody that's really great as a treatment coordinator, presenting, talking money, engaging and creating relationships with patients. But the moment leadership becomes the title and the responsibility, that is where I would say, the abyss gets bigger because now all of the unknowns of what was discussed or what was talked about now becomes this inherited model of operating and leading, meaning I'm the boss, so I'm going to tell you what to do because now I'm the manager. Now, that doesn't always happen. And I don't want to say that is like the true and consistent thing that I've experienced because I've experienced a lot of great treatment coordinators that have progressed into office managers and excel at it. But it always comes back to whether or not the leader that promoted said leader was even clear about what it is that they were looking for. Just because you have a need for an office manager doesn't necessarily mean you need to hire an office manager or promote one. There are other aspects of that function that might need support and delivery that this individual can already do because of their capacity or capabilities. So really taking the time to really understand what really is the true potential of that person, because oftentimes we might have a vision for somebody. I've been there myself. I've hired somebody where I had a big, beautiful vision for, and I was like, you are bleeding of opportunity. And I can't wait to mold you and groom you and train you and develop you as the person that I know you to be. But that wasn't their intention or heart or goal. That was mine. And it was mine that I saw for them. And when you're in those discussions where you're not really talking about the same thing, that's where the biggest heartbreaks and letdowns come up. But it's self-inflicted. And I think that's where we don't spend a lot of time even talking about is the self-infliction that we end up experiencing as a result of the breakdown of communication that's been had, specifically around those expectations and alignment. So when you start going into those discussions of what really is the need for an office manager? Okay, well, I need them to do this, that, and the other. Okay, well, who on the team is already doing some of those aspects of the position? Okay, cool. Well, do we want to have that carry forward? Or is this something that we really need to develop a role for and then this person is the owner of X, Y, and Z? Okay, cool. So then create the roadmap first before you provide the promotion or the offer first. It's like what's the saying, the cart before the horse? And that's what you end up dealing with. You end up now dealing with impacts. Oh, I didn't know that was my job. Oh, I told so-and-so, but they're not listening to me. You need to tell them. There's a lot of communication and training and development that goes into leadership. Many people are born as leaders and are equipped to lead, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are effective leaders. And that's the way that we need to make sure that the conversation is starting to grow towards modern workplace, technology, AI utilization, these types of discussions where personality and people and feelings are the most validated and valued thing inside of conversations right now. It's not just about what your hands can do. It's about how you're operating innately as a person, whether or not that's aligned with the mission, the vision, the values, whatever else is going on in the business.
Yeah, so many great points. And kind of what I hear what you're saying too, what's coming to mind is that we almost need to give team members a runway or like a training or an opportunity to see if, I know you're saying, see if the person's interested in being a leader first, but it's almost putting them in an apprenticeship type role.
Yeah.
Before they're actually assigned the leadership position, just to see if they like it and they're capable of doing it. So then if it doesn't work out, it's not like you already promoted them to the position and then you're either letting them go or demoting them. Because then I think what ends up happening is people feel trapped, right? Yeah. They're like, well, I have this all-star team member. How hard is it going to be for them to go from management to their role prior,
Yeah.
and how will it look to the team, and do they want to deal with that? Or did I promote them and now I am stuck with them because I don't have the heart to let them go because they were
Exactly.
always a great team member, right? You're kind of in that trap
Yeah. It becomes
where
a
it's almost
balancing
giving them
game.
the opportunity.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a total
Yeah.
balancing act of logic and emotions. Like, what logical reasoning do I need to have functioning in my business as opposed to the heartstrings that are pulling on because I know they have a family of 4 that they need to feed? And those are tough
Yeah.
conversations to be in, but also very much necessary in order to make sure that you're both taken care of at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I think some people are title chasers, right? Like they're there for a certain amount of time and then they want some sort of leadership because they want to be change makers also, and they feel like they can't make change unless they have a title.
Yeah.
And I see that a lot also because, I mean, not to be cliche, but I always say, you can be the change you wish to see. So,
Absolutely.
be it first. And sometimes you can make that really big difference and you can have that impact without having the title or the responsibility that comes with it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's also being really mindful as the person who's pursuing it to ensure, like, if this is really something you want to go into.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are your thoughts and how would you define psychological safety in the workplace? I know it's talked about more often than not in corporate America these days, but I never hear about it in the dental space. So for you in dental offices specifically, how does psychological safety come up for you, and where do you see instances of it where people don't have psychological safety?
Yeah, definitely. So psychological safety was a really big, I would say, opening for me as I was going through my own development as a leader, as an employee, as a contributor to the conversations. I found myself in a lot of difficult discussions, and being at someone like me at a young age in the conversations I was in, I really had to figure out whether or not I even, 1, had a seat at the table, 2, I was safe enough to speak up, and 3, I was confident in myself enough with what I was even having to share. And what I recognized is psychological safety played a huge, huge aspect in just simple conversations, simple approach to people, the presence and space that you bring and hold. That energy is felt. So that was something that I wanted to be responsible for creating, not only from an education space and speaking from, but also physically. Like, I want people to feel safe around me, to know that if you're coming up to me and you're just a random person on the street, we can have a conversation. I'm approachable, not always accessible, but I'm definitely approachable. So that's where psychological safety really, I would say, bursted for me. But as I went deeper into like my doctoral studies, I learned more about the practices, the evidence behind it, the education series behind it. It was brought forward by Amy Edmondson, which is a professor of Harvard Business Studies, and it was through a case study that she was performing around team dynamics and whether or not that they were present, motivated, inspired, and enjoyed the work that they did. And someone like me,
Yeah.
I like change. I'm always chasing change, and I'm always looking for the next thing that's not only going to be an avenue to be a better version of myself, but also provide access and resources to my peers, friends, and colleagues as well. So as I was going deeper into the studies of psychological safety, it really was the creation and I would say the creation and some of what a vulnerable culture can actually show up as. How do people feel safe? How do people speak up? Is there an opportunity for trust to be present? And do I trust the work that I'm doing too? Psychological safety has then been reinvented a handful of times over the course of the years. It is definitely catching more wind in recent discussions, as you mentioned. I'm seeing a lot more corporations starting to bring that discussion to light, which is amazing. But the important aspect of it is to make sure that it's not just this big fluffy term. And psychological safety is a great word, right? It's great in terms of like branding and putting it out there and like, ooh, am I safe? But that's where it gets misconstrued, and understanding that it's not just about like the mental health aspect of it. That's a huge aspect of it, of course. But that is around the state of being. It is around who you're showing up as. It is around the conversations you're willing to have and hold. Again, the space that it's being created, not for me, but for those around me. Are they going to be available and approachable in those discussions when they're needed to be had? And that's what I love about psychological safety and why I'm such a huge advocate for it. Because I'm a very black and white and logical person, but psychological safety is where you get to play in the color, and you get to be responsible for how much color you sprinkle and drip into the conversations that you're in. And when I started really getting deeper into the practice of it, I started reading, there's a book called The 4 Factors of Psychological Safety by Dr. Timothy Clark. He released it in 2020, which was a great read. Pandemic, people are disconnected, disjointed, they don't know what their lives or values are going to be anymore. God forbid everyone's dying. So it was just a huge emotionally triggering era for us all. So when he released his publication, he broke it down by 4 factors, which was the learner safety, the contributor safety, the challenger safety, and the inclusion safety. So are you safe to feel like yourself? Are you able to challenge the status quo? Are you safe enough to ask those dumb questions, quote unquote, dumb questions? And is there room for you to contribute forward? Meaning not just growing in my existing role, what does the future and development pathway look like for me? And that's what psychological safety operates and offers. But it also has to be the precursor to whether or not trust gets built as well. I've seen a lot of conversations starting to buzz around like trust and burnout and disparities and all those things, but no reference to psychological safety. But then they jump to the conclusion of, now we have an amazing culture. Culture is an outcome. That is a thwarted, intentional outcome that gets derived and developed. If you have consistent burnout on your team and consistently losing your talent, that's not culture, that is a revolving door. And you are reacting as quickly as you can to fill in those gaps and fill in those holes. If you took the time to really understand what is not creating the space to be safe and an opportune environment for people to grow, you'd be surprised and become extremely more present to the conversations that aren't happening, but are happening behind the scenes that are negatively impacting your experience of your team, potentially your patients, and potentially your new patient acquisition too. As I mentioned earlier, I am a strong believer in the energy conversation. I carry my little crystals around when I'm in my conversations too, because it's important. It's important to know that the conversations that you're entering and the space that you're holding can either create change, as we're talking about, or completely break and dismantle the efforts that are being made today.
I actually have 2 questions that came in regarding psychological safety.
Yeah.
One person called in so many words or less, said that they often have team building events that are outside of work that they often don't feel comfortable participating in, and they feel pressured to attend these team building events, and that if the pressure that they feel to attend is that they're not part of the team or they're not participating in culture, like you said, if they don't participate in these activities. What would be your suggestion or take either for this team member or the leaders if they're creating events outside of the workplace that are for team building, but certain team members don't feel comfortable going to them without feeling punished or kind of like an outcast if they don't attend?
Yeah, absolutely. Language plays a significant role in conversations. I am very intentional about the words that I use. I find power in language that's also built as well. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I don't believe that every team should be referred to as a family. And this is the exact result that comes as a result of not feeling included because you don't feel part of the family. And while those familial feelings want to be there, the warmth, the I got your back, I'm here to rub your shoulder, not rub your shoulder, I mean, goodness, but I'm in HR too. So I'm like, but you know what I mean? Like pat, right, pat on the back, making sure that, you're there. You want that type of warmth and safety net to be there. Totally get it. But when you start operating solely as a family of like, oh, well, Brandy does this on Thursday, so she can't do this. And then she's got to be here on Fridays because this is when her kid is da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That creates a lot of like emotional contagion on the negative aspect, meaning I'm all rattled over here now. I'm not even thinking about the fact that I have to go to this happy hour after work because now I'm thinking about all the other stuff that you just shared with me. And while that's not always the case, what I have seen become more effective, especially if you're more of an introverted leader, you're somebody that doesn't really speak unless spoken to, which is, again, okay. Maybe you're working towards being confident in your speaking abilities and you're wanting to find ways and rooms to speak up to, but maybe the team dynamic is just very much established. So you feel like that long-lost fourth cousin removed and re-added to the team that now has to figure out what this team culture really is. And the ways that I've seen this actually be more successful is those new people looking at new avenues and opportunities to bring into the conversation and make those suggestions and recommendations. So if you're going into an environment, let's say we're going to use this as an example. Our team is going to be taking us out to a team happy hour. Well, you and I both aren't drinkers, so we're not going to go and enjoy the drinking side of that experience, but there is an other aspect of that experience that we can be responsible for having. What conversations can I have with one other person, whether that's just me and Brandy having a discussion, but what's the other person that I can also have a conversation with? My leader, and say, hey, I'd love to see more of this going on inside of our team outings. Is there an opportunity for me to take the lead on this next one? And then this is how I can take the responsibility of either sharing that information and then bringing people together, or I can also just have those single experiences and build that momentum to where my confidence is growing as a result of the conversations that I'm having with my team. I think it also comes with a lot of expectation setting, where when we say we're all going out for a team outing, there is that forced expectation of we all got to go out together because we need to work on this as a team, which is great. But again, it all goes back to enrollment and understanding. If going to a bar and knowing half of your team is sober probably isn't going to be the best experience for half of that team, especially the team that wants to go and experience the team outside of the workplace. So seeing it from different angles, I always have loved and advocated for employee resource groups. So even individuals that maybe aren't well-spoken, but are great planners and great at ideating and great at visualization, have some great ideas that they want to share and bring to the table, but just don't have the space or voice to bring it up yet. Those little mini moments make a huge, significant impact in the conversations, in the day-to-day experience, and even just how you feel as a result of it. There's a lot of times where we don't go to these different dental conferences where I'm either go or don't go, where we may or may not know someone, but it's a matter of who you're wanting to, what's the reason for going to begin with, I guess is my question or my additional statement around that. What is the reason? Is it the fact that you want to go and you don't feel like you can go, or you don't feel like you can be a part of the team, or you just don't want to go and you're finding reasons not to go? So it's a little bit of a twofold question. Where's your interest? Where's your intention? Yeah. And where's theirs?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Thank you. All right. The second question that came in was this team member said that the doctor often leaves their office door open when they reprimand other team members. And sometimes the office, if not the whole office, can hear what's going on inside the office. And this person thinks that the doctor does that to use these other team members as examples. Any suggestions, on handling that situation when it comes to psychological safety?
Find a new workplace. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, I'm not.
Are you?
I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. But no, I mean, if it gets to the point where you're feeling belittled, you're feeling diminished and dismissed, and you're feeling less than whole inside of something that you're really skilled to do, absolutely you should be looking at another opportunity. There's so many opportunities that exist in dentistry that you don't have to continue to face abuse to get a paycheck if that's what your concern is. To go into the actual scenario itself, those are tough conversations to be into. That is a huge sign of psychological contracting being broken, meaning the unwritten expectations between you and I. Creating that as a tone is setting the tone for continued distrust and disbelief inside of that vision. It's going to consistently and continue to taint. I'm sure they're experiencing turnover, and if not, they're just getting lower than level of mediocrity of performance, I would say, because they're just going with the flow and going with the punches. I've worked with a dentist like this before. I've worked with an office manager like this before, where they used it as they used it as a performance tactic. And it is the biggest and largest tool that will consistently break down your team over and over and over. So when those conversations are showing up, I would address them head on. In my conversation, as if I'm the office manager and this is my practice owner is addressing me in this matter, there's no reason for us to get out of character. Even if you are upset, it should not pull you out of the own sanity that you're operating from, and vice versa. I should be able to have a very clear and candid discussion, logical and reasoning. It might get emotional, it might get heated, but that's also an opportunity for us to be like, we're not listening to each other anymore. We need to take a step back because I'm not hearing you and you're definitely not hearing me. Everybody else is hearing you, but that's the issue. You're just trying to be heard and you're not sharing what actually needs to be said. And I think that's a lot of where the issues really come from. Unfortunately, many of the dentists and practice owners I've worked with aren't the best communicators. So they rely heavily on external influence to then share how they communicate with whoever the stakeholder is. So In these circumstances, if I was the office manager being scolded in this case, my response would be, this is not the opportunity for me, first of all. Second of all, if I was interested and I had longevity in the organization and I'm looking to be there forever, then I'm going to be responsible for the environment that I'm also being a part of and creating. Meaning, hey, Dr. Smith, I appreciate what you're having to share. If you'd like to continue this conversation, let's go ahead and schedule a time after hours so you and I can have a one-on-one, door shut, and not impacting the experience for other team members. Those are very clear and easy discussions to be had, but you have to be confident and willing to say what needs to be said. Otherwise, you're going to consistently break your own internal beliefs down, and you yourself are going to break at that pressure as well. That's the last thing that I think anybody should ever be at the effect of is toxicity, especially a toxic leader. I've experienced it. I've been told to go meet them outside before. Like, I'm not brawling for a position, first of all. Second of all, that should never be the type of experience that a leader should be performing or portraying as far as, I would say, authority goes. It just shows up as that, and then you just experience complete resentment behind it too. So that's very disheartening to hear. So definitely be willing to have the conversation, the hard one, and upfront about it. And share honestly that, hey, the way that these conversations are being had, 7 of our team members are hearing them, and now they're afraid to come to work. We're about to experience a potential walkout. Is that what you want to have happen at the practice? Is that the type of experience that we want to create for our patients? That they have to be rescheduled and reshuffled to the next week because our entire team walked out? Just because you were being a jerk? Like, come on.
Yeah, and I really like what you said too about if they're not leaving, they're operating at a subpar level to stay out of the crosshairs, because I see that all the time. Like when you walk into an office and, the tension is palpable or the vibe is just off. And, this is why so many doctors, organizations reach out for help. They're, oh my gosh, my team, they're just not performing at the level they should be. And, they're not A gamers. Everybody wants the A gamers. But then you walk in and you can see that they're all just hovering above, the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And you bring up a great point. If they don't feel safe to take risks, to operate, because if you're going to be an A gamer, that requires risk, right? That requires somebody going all out all the time and having the safety to be an A gamer.
Yeah.
Because like you and I both know, we're A gamers, right? And we're not perfect. And we like to think that we are, but we're not. And so it's like you strive, and then the higher you climb, the harder you fall, right? At times.
Yeah.
So I can see how everyone would just be coasting. And so those doctors typically are the ones that get so frustrated. Why isn't anybody doing what I want them to do?
Yeah.
Well, it's not a safe dynamic for them to operate in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you see that more and more with the teams just kind of cruising.
Yeah, there's a saying around the KPIs that, and I'm a big KPI person. I mean, you have to have goals, you have to reach them, right? If you're not setting a target, what are you shooting for? Otherwise, you're just shooting blindly. So KPIs, which we all know is key performance indicators, but I stumbled upon an article, I think a year ago, and it had translated it into keep people interested instead of only focusing on the numbers. Right? And I'm like, oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Like it creates so much more significant meaning behind the work that you're doing. But you have to keep it interesting. You have to make sure that people are enjoying the work and the workplace that they're in and the work that they do, because there's an impact there. That's what the next generation is looking for. They're not chasing for CEO titles and 6-figure deals. They're looking for impact and prosperity. What can I say that I left this earth that I've done with my name on the line? And I think that's what we're going to be able to see significantly more if that's the direction that more leaders choose to follow and go down. But yeah, I think it's a funny way to just keep people moving without the right intentions, because again, if you don't have a goal, you don't have a target, you're just shooting blindly. And so many of these practices are just surviving, and they need to be able to go through that survival state, if you will, and look beyond it and not just know that it's a fight or flight type of day. Like there is opportunities in everything that we do and say. So take advantage of them.
Yeah. Love it. Well, thank you for answering those questions. Those were doozies.
Yeah.
I'm glad they called in and asked. Probably not easy to ask their manager or coach or something like that because of the lack of feeling safe with their leader. So thank you for that. And then also I want to pivot a bit because I know you and I both really like talking about this topic too. And I'm a recovering person of wanting to feel needed and feeling important. So let's dive into the topic of feeling needed and almost the addiction to feel needed and to feel important. And yeah, all of that. That's such a passionate topic, I know, for you too. So let's talk about that. So what do you want to start with the idea of people having this need to be involved, I guess?
Yeah, it's funny because I was in this conversation again this past weekend, sharing with a couple of my friends, like I would call it performative anxiety. Because when you're always in this state of being needed and there's ambition and achievement and success surrounding by that too, you feel like you're always on a pedestal and you feel like you're always on that platform to where you don't have the opportunity to be human. And you have to be the Jonathan Bonanno, the chief psycho that is performing, meaning everything's polished, everything looks good. It has the name, my name is signed off on it at the end of the day because I looked at it. And that really tears down and breaks down the why behind some of the conversations that I'm even in. And I took a step back about 3 years ago to recognize what I needed was not what I was chasing. And I was chasing to be seen. I was chasing to be in every conference. I was chasing to be popular versus present inside of what I needed personally. And that took away a lot of my own personal experiences and happiness that I'm now getting to live into extremely boldly. And the need aspect really, I would say, started when I did step out and started my own consulting and my own company and all the things. Because you want to be desired. You're like, oh, I have something I can provide. I have a solution. I can help you make these changes. I can help with those conversations. I can help da 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 da. And while that's amazing and great, that stretches you to so much or so far to where the elasticity of myself snapped. And to be completely honest, like that was what I needed to go through in order to recognize that I was going down the wrong path. I don't need to be at every conference. I don't need to be on a plane every single week. I don't need to be on phone calls all day long. I don't need, the list continues. And it was a matter of getting back to what did Jonathan really need to make him feel whole and complete for these conversations to even have the space for them. If Jonathan wants to be the person that creates the psychological safety, that can be a trusted partner, that can be a trusted friend and peer, who does Jonathan need to be other than just on stage or on all the time? Because that's what broke me down. The notification fatigue, decision fatigue, the stress, the anxiety, my health, my fitness, all those different things were not being nourished because I was so busy nurturing and building a company. And I'm so proud of myself that I can say this in the last year and a half that I've been selfish. I've taken the time to be like, no, I'm not going because one, I don't want to. Two, I don't have to. And three, I live in San Diego. It's beautiful here every day. The last place I'm trying to be is in Florida dealing with the humidity or up in Connecticut dealing with snow. I'm sorry. I am a California boy, to the bone. So really taking the time to listen internally of what my needs and desires needed to be in order to be the Jonathan that is showing up as who he is today was the first step that I needed to take. I'm very ambitious. I'm a high performer. I'm a high achiever. I've been athletic since I was a kid as well. I'm a scholar. I like to keep busy. I like to make sure that I'm learning and growing. And I needed to make sure that I was also fueling myself with the right content, the right people, the right network, and the right environment. And that took a lot of layers to peel back. But it was also, again, needed because it was necessary for me to not find myself in that cliche moment, but find who Jonathan is really evolving into and who I'm going to be proud of by the end of the day too.
Yeah, I mean, I see so much of it where there is this desire to be popular in the dental space and to snap as many pictures as possible with whoever at events. So it looks like you're important, right? One of my spiritual advisors said, stop trying to be somebody so that you can be somebody.
Yes.
And that always, that always was in the back of my mind. And it's like, we already are somebody, but it's this idea of trying to be somebody.
Yeah.
And Ram Dass, towards the end of his life, he came out with this documentary that I absolutely love, which is Becoming Nobody. And it's such a beautiful documentary, but it's kind of talking about exactly what you're talking about, which is letting go of that false sense of self, and that image and that reputation management that I say we all struggle with and deal with on a daily basis. But yeah, the idea of becoming nobody, like,
Yeah.
how does that sit when you think about that, right? It's like,
I
oh
and I
no,
love that because I follow Gary V, and I love how like
yeah, he's great.
he's in
Yeah.
your face, and I like that because it's like, yeah, like snap out of it sometimes, and myself included. But somebody had said that same remark of like, when I can't wait to be somebody like you one day, and his response was, you're somebody today. Who are you going to be today? How are you showing up today? And those comments, that type of banter, or somebody that can be your sounding bowl or sounding wall for these types of comments that show up, like, they're important. They're so needed. And I think that's like what you said about the whole popularity, chasing for it, chasing to be seen. It's like, you are seen, you have a voice, you have power and rigor behind you. That is being seen and noticed, not the 12 planes that you just had to jump on, right? That you're now having to post about. It's like, that's
Yeah.
stressful.
Yeah, and it depletes your impact, right? So it's because we only have so much capacity, and when you're running like that and chasing something, it depletes the amount of energy you have to make an impact. And I wrote a newsletter like a few years ago, and I had somebody come up to me and say, I loved what you said. And the idea was this idea of being an influencer. And because I had recognized, I had a moment, I forget what it was, but it was like this profound influence that like somebody had on me that wasn't an influencer, right? So this whole idea too of being an influencer, you can influence at a local level, and you had
Absolutely.
mentioned that earlier, the impact that you can make even in your direct circle. And I say this, I think I've said this on almost every podcast I've done right now, but I mean, it's an OG comment, but it's like, think global, act local. Like, I
Oh,
always
I
think
love
about
that.
that because yeah, it was when the environmental movement was first coming
Mm,
around, at least it's been around forever, but, when it was having its heyday during the Al Gore era,
yeah.
the idea was think globally, but act locally.
Okay.
And you can make a difference even at this micro level. And that's what it takes, in your own direct community. There can be thousands of people out there that might know who you are, but what does your direct circle think of you,
Yeah. Yeah.
or what kind of impact do you have with them? I think that's something to really think about too.
I love that you just said that, because I think that's where even the misconstrued understanding of going to even events these days is, are you looking for popularity, or are you chasing to be an influencer? And
Yeah.
there's just a lot of that, and I don't resonate with, like, I don't consider myself an influencer or a content creator of anything. I'm an educator, and I'm a leader. So the conversations that I'm educating, I'm leading in. If you like it, great, awesome. If you don't, keep scrolling. There's a lot of other things that you can like,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's an interesting way of being, to chase that side of the conversation, specifically in dentistry. I think it's funny to me. I just find it comical. But even inside of being Sally, the office manager that's chasing her next opportunity, is that really the life of dentistry that she's chasing for? Or is there a whole world of opportunities that we can open her mind to, that you don't have to just be a travel agent hygienist now, right? Like, all these things
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
showing up, it's like, no, there's a really great career potentials and pathways that can be created or followed, but the created ones are
Yeah.
the best ones.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, this was amazing. I know that I could talk to you for 3 days probably about all this like deep stuff because this is stuff I love so much to talk about. And I do like this question too, but I guess, you've grown so much. I can tell in everything that you've shared, like even especially in the last several years. But what would you, looking back in hindsight, what would you tell your 15-year-old self?
If I were talking to 15-year-old Jonathan, I would have told him to speak up and not allowed him to be the little hermit that he was for so long. I'm happy to say that I'm the person that 15-year-old Jonathan needed when he was 15. And I'm proud of that. And I acknowledge that. So I would almost kind of flip the script that way, is be proud of the person that you are today, because the 15-year-old kid that was you needed someone like you that can show up in the way that you are now. And that's what I needed. I needed somebody that would champion me, that would support me, that would advocate for the growth and development that I was looking for. the way that I do for my friends and peers now.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and I see that because that's who you are for others now, and that's the work that you do. You're a voice of the voiceless, and you're advocating for those that need to be advocated for. So yeah, it's really incredible the work that you're doing. Thank you so much, Jonathan. You're the best.
Thank you.
So glad that you were here.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you.
You just listened to the Real Talk of Dental. If it hit, if it stung, if it made you feel just a little more human, good. That's the point. This isn't about fixing practices, it's about healing people. And if you're brave enough to show up real in this industry, you're my kind of leader. Subscribe, call in, send your wildest workplace confession. And most importantly, don't clean up for anyone. The mess, that's where the magic lives. We'll see you again on the next episode.